Hi, welcome to the Shiko Math Practice Lab Algebra 2 lecture series. Today, we're going to cover the lesson 1.4 is real number properties. And this is just the lesson we're going to talk about the different properties of real numbers. So for example, what is we call this distributive, what is a commutative properties, and you will hear those things again and again a lot in the later lessons here. So we're going to use this lesson to kind of formally define those properties. Okay, so now let me show you what type of the worksheet we're going to use. Okay, so here is the worksheets. And so for the first ones here, so this is worksheet 1.4. So we are going to go over the blue problems here. And so I'm going to cover that in this video. And then here, the second page is here. Those are the practice problems. Those are your exercise. And I strongly recommend you after the video and try to do those. Okay, so it is very important, try to practice for the math, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go over to the whiteboard and we'll start these lessons here. All right, so in here, we're going to talk about the few properties here, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 properties here, right? So let's take a look at each one, what that means here, right? So I have all these properties summarized in the worksheet. So just in case you forgot about it from the worksheet, the first page, you can always see that. Okay, so the cumulative, I'm sorry, not the cumulative, commutative, right? Commutative, that means, if you have 2 numbers here, so we always do the, the addition and the multiplication. See, what is a commutative? That means you can switch the order. Okay, so that means in here, if I have A plus B, then we know the real number, they have a commutative property. That means you can do B plus A's here. So you can switch the order. And then now, if I do from the multiplication point, so they have the same commutative property. That means A times B. When you switch the order, the B times A, they will give you the same things here. Okay, so the next ones here, we call the associative. So what means the associative? So like, for example, if you have A plus B plus C here, from the order of the operations, right? So we said A plus B is inside the parenthesis. So you take the priority, so you need to do that. So if you are adding this, so the associative property say, hey, if you add A plus B first, then add C, this will be the same if you move the parenthesis to the B plus C. So this will be the same like A plus B plus C. That means if you add the B and the C first, and then you add the A, it will be the same. So that's what we call this associative. So you can move the parenthesis around. Okay, so now how about the multiplication? So the multiplication is the same. See here. So if here you have A times B times C, right? Because the parenthesis. That means if you want the A times B first, then times C. So this will be equal to the same things here. So you will say this is the A times, if then you times the B times the C. That means you do the multiplication of the B and the C first. Okay, so what is the identities here? Identity, that means if I have A plus 0, all right? So that means when you add anything, so it will be itself. That's why we call it identities, right? So it's a plus 0. And then this one's here by the commutative, so it's a plus 0 be equal to 0 plus a. So that's what we call it identities, right? So for the multiplication identity, it's the same thing. That means if the a times 1, we know everything times 1 will be what? Will be itself, right? So it's a. Then you can switch that. A times 1 is equal to the 1 times a because of commutatives, right? So that's what we call it is identities. The identities, that's why, you know, like in here, we talk about, so in here, that you do some operations, right, will become itself. Like you do some operation will become the self. That's what we call it is identities here. All right, so the next one here is inverse. What means the inverse? If I add numbers here, so that means if a plus negative a, so this one will give me zeros here because the a and the negative a, they are, we call it in the addition, we call it is the inverse, right? Okay, so the same things here, these ones here, of course, you can switch them because are commutative. So it's negative a plus a is 0 also. Okay, so now for the multiplication. What is the inverse? That means a times, because I'm doing the multiplication, is a times 1 over a is equal to what is equal to 1, or by the commutative property is 1 times a times, right? 1 over a times a here, right? So that's what is the inverse is here. So this is 0 because of the addition, and this is multiplication, right? Closures, right? So what is the closures mean? That means A and B, they are real numbers, right? So the real numbers, so then I know A plus B, it still is real numbers here. So when you add two real numbers, it will be a real numbers, right? Will not be a imaginary number. So like the same things here for the multiplications here, if a times b, and because both a and b are the real number, so this one's also going to be a real number. Okay, so the next ones here is we call this distributive property. In fact, for all the property, this is the one probably we use the most, right? So later, especially in the later lesson, you will keep telling people, say, hey, use a distributive property to FOIL it. So you will hear something. So what is the distributive properties here? So that means that if you have A times B plus C here, that means you can break out the parenthesis by distributed in here, okay? That means you can use this number to times here. So that's why this is will be the AB plus what? Plus AC, right? That is what we call the distributive property. Distributive property is a kind of combine of the addition and multiplications together. So that's why we only have one thing. We don't have separate addition and multiplications here. So like I said, distributive property probably is the one we use the most. Okay, so now let's take a look at our problems here. Okay, so I think most of us, we know how to simplify it, right? So let's see if we can identify. So when we try to simplify it, and how do we do it? So the first things here, we say, okay, I need to remove the parentheses. So I need to put it here. And also I need to put it here, right? All right. So that's why this one will be equal to 3r minus 30s. Okay, here, this is the place. Be very careful. And a lot of students make a mistake. This is negative sign, right? So when you bring this negative sign, you need to distribute the negative sign in also. So this is a minus, right? 4 times 7 is what? 28s. Hey, here, be very careful. This is negative carryover, right? So minus what? AR. So from here to here, so what type of the property I'm using here? Distributive, right? Right, I try to break out the parentheses. Okay, now, okay, so this is the S and this is the R's, right? So I can, so this is 3R. Then I can move this R over here. This is AR, and this is minus 30S, minus 28S here, right? So basically what I did here, I treat this is the whole thing. So this is A, and I treat this one's here. This one, let me use a different color here. I treat this one's here. This is B. So I just switch that, right? So that if I just switch it, what is the property I'm using here? We're using commutatives, right? Okay, so I use the commutatives here, all right? Okay, now in here, okay, so now I have 3R minus AR, so I can become 3 minus A to the R, and then I have 30S minus 28S here, so I can say here, I can minus, this is 30, be careful here, this is 28, right? S is here. So what type of the property I'm using here? Distributive again. I combined it, right? Okay, so now I finally, so be very careful, right? Because I have this negative y, you put it back to the parenthesis. So this one, because when you do that, both sides need to be negative. So this one has to be a positive in order for this negative sign take care. Okay, so now here, this is a negative 5R, then this is a minus 50A S, right? That's what is my final answer. So the last one is really not the any property. So this one we just simplify that, right? All right. Okay, so now let's take a look again. Let's try this one again. So in order to do that, I need to combine the similar terms. So I have this 11A. Then I can move I can switch these two, right? So I can see here, this is 1, and this is the what? This is the other one. I can just switch that. So this is a plus 7A, minus 13B, and then minus 3B. So what is the property I'm using here? I switch these two, right? So it's a commutative, right? That is a commutative. Okay, after that, I can, so this is the 11 plus 7, I take the A out, then minus, here, be careful here, right? So this is 13, because minus minus, so I put a parenthesis back, so this is 3, right? And then it's B's. So I factor the similar turnout. So from here to here, so what is the property I'm using here? Is what is distributive, right? Okay, now I can say, okay, so 11 plus 7 is what? Is negative 4A. Next, so negative what? 16B. So from here to here, what I did, I just simplified that. Okay, so that's what I say. The distributive properties almost we use all the time here. Okay, so now let's take a look at this 7 example to see we'll be able to figure out. Okay, so the first one's here. This is 5x times 4y plus 3x, which say is 5x times 3x plus 4y. So observe it. So what is the differences here? So it's inside the parenthesis. I change from the 4y plus 3x and to what? To the 3x plus 4y. So what did I do? I switched the order, right? So if you switch the order, what is the property here? We call this This is a what? This is a commutative, right? Okay, so now the second one's here. Let's take a look here. So the second one's here is 7x plus 9x plus 8. So that means the first I want to do 9x plus 8. Now I move this parenthesis to the front, right? So that means that I move the parenthesis from here to here. We say it's not going to change. So if the move the parenthesis around, what do we call this property? We call the what? Associative, right? All right, now let's take a look at this ones here. Another one here, this is 5 times 3x plus y. So it's equal to 5 times 3x plus 1y. So let's see what is the differences here. This is 3x plus y. This is 3x plus what? 1y, right? Oh, the differences here is what? Is I replace the y become 1y. Why the y is equal to become the 1y? What the properties here I'm using here? Yes, we call it, this is identity. Right, so if you times 1 will be itself here. Good job. Okay, so now let's take a look at this one. This is a 7n plus 2n is equal to 7 plus 2n. So what did I do here? I factor the n out and then put the parenthesis around. Okay, so what type of the properties here we say? This is a distributive, right? Okay. Now the next one here we say the 4n plus 0 equal to 4n. So you plus 0 equal to itself. So what is this? This is identities, right? This is identity for additions, right? You plus 0 will be equal to itself. Okay, so now let's take a look. So f here is 3x times 2y equal to 3 times 2 times 1. Okay, let's observe it, see what are the differences here. So this is 3x 2y. This is 2x. So I made a what? So this 2 to x2, I change to what? 2x, right? So I know if I can switch the order. So when you switch the order, what type of the property is here? Is we call it a commutative, right? Very good. Okay, so now the next one's here is 1/4, okay, times 4y is equal to 1y here, right? So 1/4 times 4y equal to 1y. Okay, let's take a look at what is the differences here. The differences is here, right? So it's 1/4 and the 1y, right? So it's 1. The y is the same. So 1/4 times 4 equal to 1. So what type of the property? You know, if your multiplication become 1, what type of the property we have? It's the inverse, right? Okay, so that's it. All right, so we did a lot of problems here and try to get familiar with those properties. Like I said, we use a lot. The distributive property probably is the one we use the most frequently. Okay, that's it. And very nice to talk to you on this topic. And don't forget to practice your problem. And if you like the video and find it is helpful, you know, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And also, if you have any questions or any requests, you know, you can always send me an email, and my email address, I put it at the beginning, the introduction slide, so you'll be able to find it. And it's so nice to talk to you, and hope you have a nice day. Okay, so keep working hard, right? Okay, so I will talk to you next time. Okay, have a good day and bye.